Recently, I had a guy comment to me that I can't have any confidence in the New Testament records because they were written decades after the events took place. And, well, he's right. Well, at least about the timing. The earliest letters of Paul come from around the year 50, just 20 years after Jesus' death. Several more documents, like the Gospel of Mark and the letter from James, come from the 60s, just 30 or so years after Jesus. And the latest New Testament document, in the opinion of secular scholars, the Gospel of John, was probably written around the year 90, just 60 years after the event. But the idea that that makes them unreliable, well, it's plainly rubbish. World War II finished in 1945, 80 years ago. My parents were 13 and 15 when it finished. They lived in Birmingham, England. They actually met on VE Day on the 8th of May 1945. My mother would often tell my brother and I of her adventures, such as coming up from the underground with her family and discovering her house had been bombed. As a result, my mother had no pictures of herself as a child. I remember all her stories as clear as anything, even though my parents are long gone. And my stories can also be collaborated by my elder brother, who is still alive. So as that was 8 decades ago, I have no problem with the writers of the Gospel recording their stories at a maximum of 6 decades after the events. And in fact, when it comes to ancient history, scholars are used to assessing sources which were written many decades or even centuries after the events under investigation. That's the norm. Rarely if ever do we find sources produced at the actual time the events occurred. So, for example, our first detailed biographical account of Alexander the Great was written by Polybius about 120 years after Alexander's death. Likewise, the most important account of Emperor Tiberius, who ruled when Jesus lived, was penned by Tacitus some 80 years after his death. So the many and varied documents about Jesus, written so soon after the events, are ancient history gold. Now, to be fair to the guy who made the comment, he also said the documents were anonymous and there was no archaeological evidence. Well, I don't agree. I think he's clutching at straws there too, but I'll address those in another video. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to post a like and subscribe to my channel if you'd like. And God bless.